Hi, 7th grade. This is your classwork homework for Monday. We are finishing up the medieval ages unit with feudalism, manorialism, the power of the Catholic Church, and we're also going to be focusing on the bubonic plague coming up. You will be having a project that is going to be due after the winter break, but I'll talk to you guys more about it. So in this video, I'm going to go over this reading, and then I'm also going to go over the questions. Okay. For homework, I want you to finish this video, but you're also going to have a new reading on the bubonic plague with a set of questions. The questions are going to be found on a Google form. Okay, so to summarize, you need to finish this video for homework, do the reading, annotate the reading, and then answer the questions that are going to be associated with the second reading. Okay, the second reading is on the bubonic plague. Please make sure you're doing your own work. You are going to be assessed on these skills. So let's get started. So this is a historical fiction. Historical fiction means that it is made up, the story is made up, but it is based on historical events. Young William stood at the edge of the manor's wheat field, watching the sunrise paint the stone church tower gold. The bell would ring soon, calling everyone to a morning prayer. Peasants and nobles alike answered when the church called. So here, I'm going to highlight this because it sounds like the church is important to everyone. I'm going to do it orange. Right? Peasants and nobles alike answer when the church calls. So everyone is praying. So the church is important to everyone. His father always said the church was like a great tree. Its roots reached into every village, its branches stretched across all of Europe, and its shade touched everyone, whether they were lords in castles or serfs in cottages. So the church is all powerful. William's hands were rough from work. That's going to be important. That's an important detail, right? Because he's a peasant, so he's constantly doing manual labor. He's working as a farmer. Though he was only 12, like his father and grandfather before him, he was bound to the land. If you remember, bound means he's attached to the land. So it sounds like he's more like a serf. And here you can see that it's his father was a peasant or a serf, and so was his grandfather, probably his great grandfather, and so forth. To Lord Edmund's manor. They could not leave, could not marry without permission, could not even mill their grains elsewhere. In exchange, Lord Edmund protected them, or so William had been told. So this is the relationship, right? Protection for work. The Lord had never actually fought for them, but he collected taxes faithfully, and the taxes, it looks like it's a portion of their harvest, of whatever they grow. Days of labor on his personal field, so they also grow food on the fields of the Lord. Fees for using his mill and oven. So these are all the taxes that they have to pay. The system was like a pyramid, William thought, remembering the traveling friar's teachings. A friar is a priest. At the top sat the king, even he knelt before the Pope in Rome. So here, this is going to be important. Even he knelt before the Pope in Rome, meaning that the Pope has more power than him, right? The king is kneeling before the Pope. Below the king were the great lords who granted land to lesser nobles in exchange for military service. So this is again fiefs in exchange for land, fiefs in exchange for protection, or loyalty. These nobles in turn granted smaller parcels to knights. Parcels are pieces of land. So if you remember, one person gets a piece of land, they split it up and give it to another person. They split it up and give it to another person, and so forth. And at the bottom were families like William. Let me read that again. At the bottom, families like Williams worked the land that supported everyone above them. So the peasants are really important because they are the ones growing the food, right? Yet the church stood apart from this ladder. Again, this ladder is the feudal system, like this pyramid, right? William realized bishops are part of the clergy. Remember, people that work for the church. Bishops own vast estates, so they own lots of land, and had power like nobles. It's going to be important. Bishops almost are like nobles. They have a lot of land, a lot of power. Monasteries preserve knowledge in their scriptoriums, where monks copied ancient texts by candlelight. The village priest, Father Benedict, was the only person William knew who could read. So most people are illiterate. Even the nobles, most of them can't read. Illiterate means not being able to read. He interpreted God's word, so he's the only one that can read the Bible. The priest recorded births and deaths and reminded everyone that earthly lords were temporary, but the church was eternal. So these lords, live and die and live and die, but the church survives. William picked up his wooden hoe. The fields needed tending, or the fields he needs to get to work. The Lord's taxes needed paying, and Sunday's mass will come whether the harvest was good or not, or poor. This was the world as God had ordered it, or so Father Benedict always said. Some days, watching the nobles ride past in fine cloth, while his family wore rough wool, William wondered if God had consulted or asked the peasants about this arrangement. So he kind of understands the feudal system because it's all he knows. His grandfather was part of it. His dad was part of it. He's part of it. His kids will be part of it, right? He kind of comes to accept that this is just the way life is. But then here, you can tell that he's kind of questioning things, right? Like, why did God do this? Did God ask us if we were okay with this? These lords, these nobles are riding with really nice clothing, and his family has like really rough wool. William wondered if God had consulted the peasants about this arrangement. So he's questioning. He's kind of torn. He's kind of like in the middle. What inference can be made about William's feelings about the feudal system? So what is his feelings about the feudal system, right? It's not. He doesn't say he hates it. He doesn't say he loves it. When you infer, you are guessing based on evidence. And I'm guessing that he's kind of like, he accepts it, but then he also kind of questions it. Support your answer with detail. So here's an exemplar response. William has mixed or conflicted feelings about the feudal system. This is your claim. Again, this is the claim. He seems to accept that as the natural order because he has grown up in it and has been taught that this was the world as God had ordered it, right? He listens to the priest. The priest says that God wants it this way. As Father Benedict tells him, here's the elaboration, this shows that he understands the system and follows its rules. However, William also questions whether the system is fair. The text says, some days, watching the nobles ride past in fine cloth, while his family wore rough wool, William wondered if God had consulted the peasants about this arrangement. This reveals that William notices the inequality, they're not equal, between nobles and peasants, and sometimes doubts whether God really wants things this way. He goes through the motions of his work and accepts his position, but he is not completely satisfied with how the feudal system treats people like him. Key elements, right? State that William has mixed feelings. He's not completely accepting or rejecting the system. Provide at least 2 pieces of evidence. Explain how the evidence supports the inference. And it shows understanding that William both accepts the system because of his upbringing, Father Benedict's teachings, and questions its fairness, nobles versus peasants, and equality. Question 2. What is the most likely reason the author includes a description of the church bell and Father Benedict? Why did the author include these 2 things, the bells and Father Benedict? They didn't do it to show why he enjoys going to church. Nowhere here does it say that he enjoys going to church. It's to show how the church influenced daily life in medieval society, right? The church is everywhere, and so is the Father. To predict that William will become a priest, no. If you pick this one, this is really, really wrong. To predict that he's going to become a priest. This is an inference. It's a wrong inference. To describe the physical appearance of medieval church buildings. No, they don't really actually describe the building, right? And this has nothing to do with the priest. Next one. I do give you guys some glossary terms like influence, predict, physical appearance. Read the section from the text and answer the questions that follow. The system was like a pyramid. William thought, remembering the traveling friar's teachings. At the top sat the king, even though even he knelt before the Pope in Rome. How does the author use of the phrase, though even he knelt before the Pope in Rome, help the reader understand the power of the church? So, how does this phrase, I'm going to highlight it, how does this phrase help us understand the power of the church? It shows that kings were weak and unimportant in medieval society. It doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't show that. Right? You might make that inference, but it doesn't show that. It shows that the Pope had no real authority over kings. It doesn't show that either. Actually, it shows that the Pope had a lot of power. It reveals the church authority extended up even above royal power. The church had more power than kings. So the answer is C. In D, it says it reveals that kings and popes were equal. No, it doesn't. If you're kneeling in front of someone, you have less power than that person. If you are getting on your knees in front of someone and asking for forgiveness or whatever, it means that you have less power. Number 4. Based on the text, which detail best shows how Lord Edmund controlled the lives of peasants like William and his father? So, which of these shows how the Lord controlled the peasants? Lord Edmund lived in a castle while the peasants lived in cottages. This doesn't really show how he controls them. Lord Edmund collected taxes and required peasants to work on fields. I think this is a good option, right? He controls their life. Lord Edmund never actually fought to protect the peasants. That's wrong. It doesn't show how he controls them. Lord Edmund granted land to knights who serve under him. This is wrong. The answer is this one, right? It shows how much power he has over them. Question 5. Which sentence from the text best shows an example of how peasants' freedom was limited in the manor system? So let's imagine that this is a claim. Peasants' freedoms was limited in the manor system. So which evidence supports that? His father always said the church was like a great tree. Its shoots reach into every village. This has nothing to do with the manor. Let's look at this one. In exchange, Lord Edmund protected them, or so William. This one doesn't show how he limits their life. Limit means control. They could not leave, could not marry without permission, could not even mill their grain elsewhere. The answer is this one. It shows that they can't do any of these things without permission. William picked up the wooden hoe. No. Number 6. How does the author use William's thoughts about the pyramid system to help readers understand feudalism? So again, how does the author use William's thoughts about the pyramid system to help readers understand the feudal system? By showing the pyramids were important buildings in medieval Europe? No. There's no pyramids in medieval Europe. By explaining the hierarchy from king to peasant, with each level owing loyalty to the one above? This one looks good. By providing that the feudal system was fair to everyone in society? How is it fair? By describing how peasants could climb higher levels in the pyramid? No, they can't. Remember, the grandfather was a peasant, the grandpa was a peasant. The answer is B. Number 7. That was 6, 7. 6, 7, got it. Got him. Read the section from the text. Bishops owned vast estates and wielded power like nobles. Monasteries preserved knowledge in the scriptoriums, where monks copied ancient texts by candlelight. How does the author use of the phrase wielded power like nobles help the reader understand the role of the Catholic Church? So this term, where is it? Oh, here it is. Wielded power like nobles. How does this help the reader understand the role of the Catholic Church in medieval Europe? It shows that bishops were trained to fight. No, this has nothing to do with fighting. I know here it says wielded power. So some of you guys are thinking, oh my God, someone's like fighting like with a sword. That's not what it's saying. That's not what that means. It shows the church only had spiritual authority, not political power. It has a lot of political and spiritual power. They're really wealthy. They're really rich. It reveals the church leaders had both religious influence and earthly authority similar to nobility. And the last one, it reveals the bishops competed with the nobles to see who was stronger. No, it just shows that these bishops were powerful, both religiously and socially and economically. Social, everything about them was power. And the last one, which additional information could be added to the text to support the idea that peasants had difficult lives under the manor system? So, what can we add to this article or this passage to show that peasants had a very difficult life under the manor system? A description of the size of the layout of Lord Edmund's castle. How would this show that peasants had a difficult life? It wouldn't. A list of crops that were commonly grown in medieval manor. Some of you guys are going to say, yeah, this one because it shows that they didn't eat a lot. Not quite. That's a stretch. An account of how many hours per day peasants worked in the fields and for the Lord. This one's looking good. A map showing the different manors in medieval Europe. The answer is C again. Right? An account of how many hours, like a primary source of how many hours they worked. Likely, probably 15 to 18 hours per day. Okay, so those are the questions. So the questions you're about to get on this passage are going to be very similar to this one. There is going to be a short answer response. Question 1 is going to be a short answer response. I'm just letting you know that. I will look at this. I will give you a homework grade based on how you do. Okay, 80 to 100 will be an M. 80 to 89 will be an S plus. 70 to 79 will be an S, and so forth. Okay. If you get anything under an S, you will have to do it again, most likely. Okay, probably with a different passage though. So again, this is on the bubonic plague, which is going to be our next unit. Okay, some of you guys know something about the bubonic plague already. Not the next unit, but the next part of this unit. Okay, again, this video is not too long, but then you do have this reading to do, and then the questions. The questions will be on a Google form.